Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Rural Rapport. I'm your host, Teresa Hoffman, a Senior Communications Associate with the Center for Rural Affairs. Across the country, locally owned grocery stores are an integral part of their communities, providing essential resources as well as economic and social benefits. In some cases, they're also a community hub. As a high-traffic business, the store's bulletin boards are an ideal place to post ads and information about events and fundraisers. They're also a gathering place, especially those with places to have a meal or a cup of coffee, and a place where residents can catch up with friends and neighbors while they do their shopping. Independently owned grocery stores have struggled for decades to remain open due to people moving out of their communities, owners reaching retirement age, and competition with big box stores. In recent years, inflation, supply chain issues, and increased online shopping have added to the strain, especially in rural areas. Lawmakers in Nebraska and Iowa have taken notice and are currently considering legislation that would provide resources to these small business owners. The Nebraska Grocer Reinvestment Option Act and the Iowa Grocer Reinvestment Fund would establish grant and/or loan programs in each state. Joining me to talk about the legislation and the importance of locally owned grocery stores are Mitch Schlegelmilch and Tom Mulholland. Thank you both for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Tom, we'll get started with you. Talk about how long you've been working in the grocery business.
I've been working in the grocery business since I was a little kid. My grandfather owned the grocery store. I'm actually fourth generation in the store, and I did things a few times every now and then, just helping out him and screwing around in the grocery store. But then started when my father had it, carrying out groceries during the summer on Saturdays, things like that. So I've actually been in it for at least 50 years.
Well, I understand you are in the process of rebuilding your store there in Malvern, Iowa after fire in late 2021. How's that progress going? And why was it important for you to rebuild?
The progress has been extremely frustrating. We couldn't even begin the cleanup for 6 months because they weren't sure about the structural stability of the wall of the building next to us after the fire, after our building went down. We expect to be able to get going this spring finally. I ended up firing the company that I did have chosen as a construction company because every time we were ready to start last year, then they'd bring up a question and start an argument with the architect, with some of the others on the team. And by the time that happened, then it was too late to get anything going last year. I think we're ready to go. We've got just a couple of things to finish up right now, but it should be happening within the next couple of months, once weather allows and we get those final few things ironed out. Right now, it's 11 miles to the closest grocery store for my community, and further than that for many people. 11 miles is the closest. It's 20 miles in another direction, 25 another direction. We're kind of in the middle of a 1,200 square mile void that creates a food desert for these people. And that's not a big issue for some of our customers, but for many others it is. And especially when you're talking about the Iowa winters and having to get out on the roads, the highways, and hoping that they're clear. So it's created a hardship for a lot of people. And I want to get this store rebuilt, reopened, make it as strong as possible so that somebody wants to continue it for the next couple of decades at least, to take care of my community after I've retired.
Great. Well, Mitchell, you are president of a board of an investment group that purchased Greg's Market there in Exeter, Nebraska, following the retirement of its owner 4 years ago. How and why was that group formed? Share a little bit about that process and kind of what you guys do today.
All right. So yeah, the previous owner knew it was time for him to move on. He had shared his plans to retire with a number of folks within the community. And that led to several community meetings with local residents to discuss our options. we had an outstanding turnout and interested investors, it was decided to form a corporation. So we did. And our journey began in March of 2020, which just so happened to be right in the heart of the pandemic. We have about 60 investors. The corporation, we purchased the real estate, the equipment, the inventory. It was really just a turnkey exchange. We just, when Greg was done, we were able to sign everything, get it all moved over, and away we went. We hit the ground running. We didn't really know what we were getting into. It was a learning curve, and then with the pandemic, it was interesting times. Learned a lot
Yes.
really fast, and so we luckily we started with a 5 board member. We have added one since then. Board members are very much engaged and volunteer many hours, which we try to help. Try to not get too involved. We want to let our employees do their thing, but at the same time, it seems like we do end up having to get involved and help with some of the management decisions, accounting, setting margins, building maintenance, human resources, the IT side of things. And it's definitely been more of a challenge than I would have ever anticipated, but
Mhm.
we're going strong.
Why did you decide to get involved with this process?
I tell people I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I had a course I was taking during I was pursuing my master's degree in college, and I had a class that I had needed to write a business plan. And I knew the community was going through this transition and what we were trying to accomplish, and I offered to write up a business plan, which was required for, I think even our liquor license required a business plan for what we were trying to do, and um, assisted with that. And then I think because of my efforts there, it just kind of fell into, well, how about you? I was elected or nominated to be a part of the board, and then later asked to serve as the president of the board.
And I'm sure despite some of the frustrations and challenges, you've probably enjoyed your time doing this and doing this for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
uh, I don't seem to turn away a challenge. When the odds are stacked against you is typically when I like to step up and take it on head on. So yeah, it hasn't been just challenging, it has been rewarding as well.
Well, great. Tom, we'll start this next question with you. So talk about your community and the customers you serve. It sounds like from your previous comments that you do have a loyal customer base and some competition in your region. So just talk about your community, the customers, and how you serve that area.
Malvern is a little over 1,000 people, but it's a strong, growing community, in my opinion. There's a lot of good things that are happening right here. Uh, we're expanding our school right now. So instead of having our grade school 7 miles away out in the middle of the country, now it's going to be here in our community, and turning this into a K-12 school. There's also a group that has purchased an abandoned rest home, and they're turning it into a child care center that will take care of up to 175 kids, I think, and that's needed everywhere. Uh, there's a housing subdivision that is going in right behind that, for 40 or 50 houses. So there's a lot of great things that are happening for my community, but those things started with the idea that there was going to be a grocery store here. So it's extremely important that we do get that. This is an older rural farming community for the most part. Um, Shortly after the fire that destroyed my business, a Dollar General did open up just on the outskirts of town, outside the city limits. So there is a little something. Um, we've got a number of very strong businesses here and people that draw people into the community. So we're very lucky in that instance. We're 35 miles from Omaha, and we've got a number of artist art galleries here that are very strong and bring people here. My business, I worked in Omaha for 20 years. I had a newspaper article once that called me possibly the best meat cutter in Omaha. Um, my the store that I worked at, we won Best of Omaha as a little tiny store. We beat out all the chains. I won Best of Southwest Iowa shortly before the fire occurred for grocery store, meat department, best place to buy produce. So I had a very strong grocery store, a very loyal following. I made numerous types of sausages and smoked products like bacon, different things. I had people that would drive 3 hours to pick up some of those types of sausages. So we had people that came from all over the region to shop at our store, but then they also went to the other businesses.
Mhm.
People came to go to the doctor, they'd come to the grocery store, they'd go to the pharmacy. Hey, we're in town, let's go to the restaurant. Having a grocery store in town makes it so much easier for the restaurants when they forgot one item on their order or they really can't use a whole case of something. So the businesses all feed off of each other. We've got a banker that really cares about the vitality of the community. And, all of those businesses work together and do so much for each other. So having a grocery store missing right now has been a strain on the town, on the other businesses, and it's shown the need and the importance of the grocery store.
And just how what you described is really key to kind of keeping those rural communities thriving and vibrant and resilient for the future. Um, Mitchell, let's talk about Exeter. Tell me about Greg's Market and your customers and what type of competition you're facing in that area.
Yeah, so Greg's Market is a fairly small grocery store. We have anywhere from 6 to 8 employees, depending on the time and how things are going. Our customer base is solid. We have very loyal customers. When I'm in there, it's typically the same faces you see over and over again, and that has been wonderful. As far as competition goes, there is a convenience store within the town that sells a little bit of groceries, but our main competition, and what I tell people is ourselves. We're competing against ourselves, trying to figure out ways that we can constantly improve and things that we can do better. We're never going to be able to compete with the large retail stores. York is the closest, I would say, city. I mean, the population of York, I think, is around 8,000, but they have the larger retail stores within town. And as far as pricing goes, we can't even compare with prices. When I see their sale ads and what they're selling items for, sometimes it's far less than we can even purchase it at our cost. So I don't know how they do that, other than um, maybe they are selling it at a loss. I'm not sure. But so really our competition is just figuring out what we can do to get better and constantly looking for ways to improve. But our customers are loyal. I wish we had a larger customer base, but we're limited, smaller population. I think we're just under 600 people within our town, and we do see folks come in from other communities, and some communities that no longer have a grocery store within their town. And we do hear how nice it is to have a local grocery store in a small town, because when they lost their grocery store, they could see the effects on every other business within that community.
Well, and you talked a little bit about people driving to York or other places and their prices are cheaper, but that I'm guessing that's probably one of those things you really have to plan for and really probably in the long run with gas and all that, you're
Mhm.
probably offering a service to folks that just like to stay closer at home to home, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Mitch, while we're still with you, we'll talk about operating a small business, which is not easy. Any small business owner can attest to that. I guess what challenges are you facing in your group operating that local grocery store?
The biggest challenge is not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring, with our employee resources, within, employee issues, equipment operation, equipment replacement needs, material costs, material availability, delivery schedules, utility costs are rising, and there's constant building maintenance and repairs. It truly never ends. The list goes on. There's no crystal ball. and we're constantly having to be reactive versus proactive, and that's a major challenge. I wish I'm a fairly stringent planner. I like to know what's ahead, and this experience has definitely taught me to think outside the box, and you gotta think on the go, and roll with it. Luckily, with the board of directors we have, and then our entire community, if things get rough, we're able to, talk amongst that community, and we all are there for each other. So even though there's challenges, there's a lot of support.
Tom, it sounds like you've just dealt with challenges, since your fire, and obviously that has been your biggest issues at the moment. When you were in business, what were those challenges like, kind of the day-to-day challenges that you faced?
My situation is a little bit different than Mitchell's, because he's got a board, he's got a number of people that are working and trying to help, whereas I was trying to wear too many hats myself. My building, if it was still there right now, it would be 150 years old. Some of the equipment seemed like it was almost that old too. So there was a lot of repair issues and things like that. The building was not efficient electrically, or we had, when I bought the building, the air conditioner, there were two air conditioners. One of them broke down the first week. A month later, the water heater broke down and had to be replaced. So there's always things like that, issues with breakdowns or just wear and tear, things that need replaced. I was constantly trying to upgrade the equipment. We put in, when I bought the store, 40% of the lights didn't work. So the following year, thanks to a grant from Mid-American Energy and others, we were able to replace the lighting in there. We replaced the freezers and coolers a couple of years later. But, again, there's always issues. And then when you run into things like, your credit card security and things like that, I'm no computer expert, but I've got to get this figured out somehow. And, luckily, I've got some people that have done all they could to help me. I had a friend that he had been the internet security director for TD Ameritrade, and I asked him for help on that. And thank goodness he struggled with it because of the issues that we had with the phone system and phone company that we had. It just didn't work as easily as it should have. So, there's always all sorts of issues. And then you talk about COVID. Our area got hit by horrible flooding the year before that. So there's always a new curveballs thrown at you that you aren't expecting and don't know how to react to. I said that I worked in Omaha for 20 years. My boss was fantastic. He had so much experience. He also had grown up in the grocery store. His grandfather had started. But he retired a few months before COVID. And now I'm facing things that even with his 40, 50 years of experience, he never would have had to deal with before, just like all of us, it's a new playing field every day, and you've got to make your way through it.
Most definitely. It seems like, when you think you have it figured out, something else is thrown at you. So we talked a little bit about the two pieces of legislation in Iowa and Nebraska. Tom, what do you see, the benefits do you see from having that type of resource, those grant and loan resources available? And is that something you could see yourself using at your store once it's kind of back up and running?
Yes, definitely. This is the type of thing that's much needed. For, as you said in the opening, for decades, the small town stores have been dying, have been going away because of the competition from the larger stores and other reasons. But now they're finally starting to realize the importance of these small town stores and trying to help. If I needed a piece of equipment and had a place where I could reach out and look for a grant, or look for a loan, besides my local bank. And they've been fantastic in helping. But the more options you've got, then the better off you are. Maybe you can compare rates. Maybe you can get a good deal, or get half of it written off because it's a grant or something like that. These possibilities um, are really going to be something that can help people like myself, communities like my own. Kansas State University with the Rural Grocery Initiative has been fantastic. And now other states are realizing how important these things are also, and trying to follow in that direction. And I appreciate that.
Mitchell, same question to you. What do you see the benefits of the grant and or loan program? And how do you think that would benefit Greg's Market?
So for all rural grocery stores, I think it provides us with an opportunity to stay in operation. I'd be willing to guess that every single one of these grocery stores has a need to do list and a wish list. And I can assure you that the majority of those are not inexpensive. And unfortunately, putting money aside for these projects is not something that we're very good at or have the opportunity to do. And so with this legislative bill, that it provides more opportunity and more options. Like Tom mentioned, it gives us more options to potentially improve.
And Mitchell, you recently testified in support of the Nebraska Grocery Reinvestment Option Act during a hearing in Lincoln. Why was it important for you to show up in person?
Um, Actually, an Exeter High School classmate of mine who works at the Capitol had forwarded me the information on this bill, and as she knew I was a member of the board with Greg's Market in Exeter, and talking to the rest of the board members and then some of our investors, we all agreed that it was important for us to have somebody there in person to testify, so we can share with our local officials how truly important it is for not just Greg's Market, but for all of our rural grocery store owners, and the communities that we live in. It's not just that local business, it's the entire community. And it really hit home for us, and it felt like something that we needed to share, how important we feel this is.
And you appeared to get the hearing appeared to get the attention of the committee members. Did you feel that same way?
I felt very positive afterwards, and then even having conversations with folks in the hallway after we left the room, it was, I don't like to say misery loved company, but we all are in this together, and we all feel the same pains and the same challenges. And so to know that there's some potential for reprieve, it felt really good. And it felt good like we were extending our community, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've talked about the challenges and kind of the not so great parts of being a small business owner. Let's move over to a little bit of more positive side of things. Tom, what do you like about being a small grocery store owner?
I've worked in big grocery stores before where it just seems like a factory. And you may see a customer or something, but you don't know them. When you're working in the small town, you've got friends that come in that you grew up with, people you've known all of your life, and you're able to help in so many ways. One of the important things about having a grocery store in your community is taking care of the families when there's a death in the family. And if you don't have a grocery store in the town, then it makes it so much harder for so many things to happen. But just being able to connect with the people and find ways that I can help my community, is important to me. The sense of community is something that I feel very strongly about, and one of the main reasons why I'm trying to do this. And it's just a bond that you're able to build with so many people, and that's important.
Mitchell, you're part of the investment group, and you're able to keep this longstanding community business open. What's that been like for you, and how's I'm sure it's been a great experience, but share share what the positive sides of that.
Yeah, and a lot of what I'd like to echo what Tom said. I agree with a lot of what he's saying, and there is a lot of pressure and the need to make decisions that aren't necessarily the most popular. But at the end of the day, there is a much bigger picture here than most people realize. There are a lot of people counting on us to be successful, and I personally really enjoy a good challenge, and I also love working with our employees and seeing our customers. It kind of goes without saying, but we're nothing without the employees and the customers, and it really it's like seeing your friends and your family within there. It's been great in that effect to grow relationships and to build upon those relationships. It's the people side.
We've talked a lot about this throughout the episode here, but anything you want to add about the benefits of local independent grocery stores to small communities and their economies? Anything you maybe left out or want to add to that discussion?
And that's a difficult question because you can't really there's qualitative and quantitative effects of that. You can put a number on what the store brings back to the community, but it doesn't truly measure all the full benefits of what it offers to that community and the local businesses. And when you have a business in a small town, if that is ever to fail or to close down, the effects go on. It's a ripple effect. Every single business in that community will feel that pain. And so I look at the grocery store as being the heart of the community, the business that's the heart of the community. And when I've seen other communities around us and heard from folks that have been in those communities where the grocery store was no longer in operation, they suffered, and it hurts. And it hurts a lot, and I just hate to see that. So it feels good to be a part of it, because we know we're doing something that's a little bit larger scale than most people do realize.
And Tom, I think you kind of covered this a little bit with kind of your absence there currently is having an impact on the Malvern community, and you said it's showing in restaurants and other businesses in town. Anything else you see as just once you get back open, what do you think that's just going to add back to your community?
I think it's going to make it more of a community. As you've said here, it allows people to meet each other in the store and run into each other that they haven't had a chance to talk for so long. I one time had neighbors that lived next door to each other that ran into each other in my grocery store, but they live 60 miles away. It's that type of thing that really shows the number of people that you bring in and the effect that you have on community. It's extremely important, and it's just a bond that is missing at this time.
Well, if our audience would like to learn more and follow the progress of the Nebraska Grocery Reinvestment Option Act and the Iowa Grocery Reinvestment Fund bills, please sign up for our center's biweekly legislative updates. I've included that link below. Mitchell and Tom, thank you again for joining me and sharing your stories. And thank you all for tuning in to this month's Rural Report. If you'd like to learn more about the Center for Rural Affairs, visit our website at cfra.org. Have a good day, everyone.